All right, so should we get into our topics at hand tonight?
Oh, yeah, I suppose.
I know Margot's in here, and Margot had a hard time with what I was saying the other day. So it started off. Do we have the original comment the person made? Some woman wrote a comment and said something like, I think it's absurd that people think that men and women can't be friends. Like there's nothing wrong with men and women being friends. So, I mean, you know me and my 2 cents and my opinions on, on the male
2 cents. You can't help but throw at least a quarter into every conversation.
So my point was, it was really funny actually, because me and my wife are watching some show where it was about it's that show Dear Edward, and there's a plane crash and there's only one survivor. This kid survives, right? So all the family members are at you know how they do like group grievance, it's almost like an AA meeting for grief, Grievers Anonymous, yeah. I guess it would be. So it's all these people discussing their grief, and there's a woman in there who lost her fiance, and the fiance's brother is also at the group, and the brother is engaged to another woman. So, but he goes and he sees the dead brother's fiance at this meeting every time, and he gets there one day and she's just having a nervous breakdown, and he's like, "Is there anything I could do?" She's like, "Honestly, I could use a drink." So they go and get a drink together. Now, this is the day that I'm in this crap storm of tweeting. So he goes and gets a drink with her. And I say to my wife, this is completely inappropriate. He's engaged. She goes, but it's a special scenario. Like, she lost her fiance. Like, what's the difference? They are at this restaurant for 5 minutes, have one drink, and start making out because they fall in love with each other. And I'm like, told you.
Well, that and when you're in a
vulnerable
compromised
state.
Mental state, like grief, that's especially dangerous.
So, Enoch, you can text me the readings each day. This is settled. Men and women cannot be platonic friends, right? So my point was, I started saying, women, if your husband wanted to go out for coffee with another woman, would you be okay with it? And I got most people agreed with me that that's completely inappropriate, right? But there were people who were arguing against it, saying there's nothing wrong with this. You go out to coffee with a person of the opposite sex and you're married and they're married. What are you talking about? Are you sharing intimate details? Are you arguing with your wife that day and now all of a sudden you complain about your spouse to this person? Like, right. This is the things affairs are made of, right? And like 80% of affairs are from people who know each other and are friends already. Like, I just can't see. I can't see any scenario where I would be comfortable with my wife going out with another man alone, except her gay friend. Like she has one gay friend from college, and
even then, the appearance of scandal,
right? The appearance of scandal,
not prudent either,
right? So it's like, no, I don't think there's any scenario where I'm okay with my wife going out with a man alone like that. Like it's just, I don't know. I mean, people really were pushing back, and then Margot got upset. And Margot got upset, I think, because she took it like, oh, so I guess we're not friends, Anthony. And the thing is, I am friends with Margot, but there's a very specific kind of friendship, right? Like,
I think the whole terminology of friends is just Matthias.
Is that a Marian apparition? Mary's appearing.
I think the word friends is just kind of too ambiguous, and there's no strict definition in our day and age, right? So I think the better question is like, what is an appropriate relationship between men and women at different stages and states in life, right? Because it changes depending on circumstances. So every circumstance can be different. And of course, people, to your kind of broad brushing took, offense at all the different exceptions.
Right. So like, but what they don't realize is their exceptions prove the rule, right? It's like people don't understand that. It's like if I say like a blanket generalization, of course there will be some exceptions in there. But so this is what Lauren's saying. She's saying they can be platonic friends, but being alone together is scandalous at the very least. Now, here's the thing. All of my female friendships, and I do have female friendships, but not like my female friendship, like I really like Rob's wife, Hope, but Hope will always be Rob's wife to me.
Mhm.
My brother's wives will always be my brother's wives.
There's
Like
the friendship is the secondary relationship.
secondary to the male in the scenario, or secondary to my wife in the scenario. So my wife has girlfriends who I like them, I'm friendly with them. I wouldn't go out and have coffee with them.
Or like if you're in a work, you work with mostly guys, I would imagine, but
Yeah.
if you're in a work situation, you can be friendly with a coworker, but that friendship is secondary to their relationship to you as a colleague.
Correct.
And that friendship should stay within that work relationship.
And if it does leave that environment, your wife needs to be there.
Yes.
Your wife needs to be there. That's all. So like
or other people.
Right.
Witnesses.
Yes. Other work coworkers and things like that. So like I say all the time, like Angela, I consider a friend. Margot, I consider a friend, but I would never go out alone with Margot because that would be a date. Like if I took Margot out for coffee, that's a date. I could never do that.
It has the appearance of one to others.
Especially because Margot already admitted to having a crush on me. I mean, come on. No, but my point in the whole thing was obviously teasing you, Margot. The point in the whole thing is that usually when you have a male-female friendship, there's one person in there that wants it to be more than friends. And it's not always the man. So there were women arguing with me saying, no, I've actually been friends with guys who I wanted it to go further and it didn't. I'm like, you were the one who wanted it to go further in that scenario. There's always a weird tension there, unless you're talking about an old woman from church, or you know what I mean? Like of course there are these strange exceptions, but I don't belong going out with a 35-year-old woman, taking her out to coffee. It's just not appropriate. It's just there's too many. Not even temptation to cheat. It's temptation to bare your heart to the person. Like if you get too friendly and too close, like a friend is like my son got in a car accident on Sunday. I texted my friend Rob, I'm in a crazy situation right now. I couldn't text a woman that because now I'm vulnerable in this bad situation. Now your heart is in a wounded spot, and now somebody's going to come in that. It's just a very dangerous situation for married men to be friends with women and married women to be friends with men. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's extremely, extremely rare where that is an acceptable thing for me.
Yeah. You know what obviously as, brothers and sisters in Christ, we can be there for each other. But the moment like a woman becomes a helpmate to a man like God intended, then that should only happen within marriage, right?
Yeah.
So it's if a man is vulnerable to a woman who's not his wife, then she kind of becomes that, right? And it is a form of infidelity. It's not, I wouldn't say necessarily adultery, but it's definitely infidelity, even at that level, I would say.
So here, look what Rick's actually saying. If you start sharing emotions with a woman, that is cheating. And sometimes worse. Like you got to realize, like, I would imagine a guy goes out, gets drunk with his friends, does something stupid in the moment is less hurtful than a man having a texting relationship with a woman who never gets physical, because it's a betrayal of the heart. Like there's one thing to be physically, you make a mistake, and there's another thing to be bearing your heart to another woman. Like that's the most cruel thing you could do to a woman. It's like, and me too. This weird hypothetical where you're saying, like, if if your spouse was out drinking and made a mistake and kissed a guy, something like that would be way different than your spouse like carrying on an emotional.
There's
affair.
different levels of culpability.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've seen plenty of good guys do stupid things when they're drinking. They're still good guys. They didn't mean it, whatever. But if you're carrying on this texting thing and sending each other pictures, and like, you don't ever have to have it get physical for it to be cheating. It could be devastating to your spouse. It's like people really have to be on their guard with things like that. Now, Margot was saying, who is she supposed to talk to? Margot, honestly, you should be involved in your parish, and you should have women friends at your parish. There should be like a women's group that you're going to until you meet somebody of the opposite sex. And everybody always teases Margot and Brick, but I think they've already explored that option, guys. It's not happening. So why don't we cut them a little slack?
And honestly, for those that are single, if you have a friend of the opposite gender, if you're both single, both faithful Catholics,
oh, that's appropriate.
There's no reason. Well, I'm saying there's no reason to just be friends.
I agree.
Think we've lost what the notion of love actually is in our society, and we get caught up in this emotion that's called love now, but it really isn't. And you think you have to have this like deep and instant romantic like attraction to someone for it to be love, but really love is just wanting to get another person to heaven, and marriage is just wanting to create more life and wanting to get someone to heaven. So if you're friends with someone of the opposite gender and you're both single and Catholic, there's no reason not to consider it.
See, I think that also we've put so much, especially in the online Catholic world, there's like this unnatural pressure to meet the perfect spouse. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like if a guy is not 6'4", 180 pounds, in perfect shape, has everything has everything together, can support a family, it's like then a woman just writes him off like he's nothing. Like, look, my wife married me. We were a mess. I barely had enough for an apartment. Like, we barely scraped it together. We made it work, and you just make it work. Like, you have to stop having unreasonable expectations, and you have to be willing to meet somebody and work with them. And it's gonna tough it out for a while, you know. I mean, being Catholic is always going to be hard, especially if you want to try and keep your wife home and stuff. So you're going to have to get used to living that scrappy life anyway.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
So, do we want to spend more